All right, welcome back to Politically Homeless. I'm Dave, and I'm talking about no labels again today. I know some of you are not enthusiastic about no labels, but I want to share an article by Holly Page. Holly was on my channel a couple weeks ago now, I think, and they even shared some of the clips from the interview with folks within No Labels, which was very nice of them to do. But Holly has written a great article here, and I wanted to highlight some of it. Challenging the failed status quo in American politics. Now, she worked with Bill Clinton, and a lot of people just were like, oh, how could you have someone on that worked with Bill Clinton? And like, well, she's smart, and she knows her stuff. She knows politics. She believes in core principles. And she says here, they taught me that my highest loyalty should be to my core principles. Yeah, but Dave, Bill Clinton. See, right away, because she worked with the DLC, and the DLC was kind of breaking away from the super progressive, super liberal part of the Democratic Party. And my guess is the Democratic Party left her. You can't really argue with the 90s. I know a lot of people like to talk about the 80s. The 80s was a really great, prosperous decade, but so was the 90s. And she talks about how the DLCs was maligned and misrepresented in its day because it dared challenge a party orthodoxy that had clearly been rejected by American voters. It held its ground and won. As a result, Bill Clinton oversaw the longest economic expansion in American history. Lowest unemployment rate in 30 years, lowest crime rate in 26 years, lowest poverty rate in 20 years, and converted the largest budget deficit in American history into the largest surplus. All right, full stop. You had me at lowest crime rate in 26 years. All right. Crime is pretty much off the hook in every major city in this country, controlled, by the way, by progressive, crazy Democrats. Now, Holly Page is not a progressive, crazy Democrat. She's an old school progressive Democrat, but she believes in prosperity. She believes in the economy, the private sector. I think she believes in the business community so long as it's not being propped up by the government. Anyway, I'm not going to speak for Holly Page. I'm just going to talk about this article. The attacks against political change today are reminiscent of those against the DLC in its early years. I would have to say it's louder than the attacks on the DLC. Much louder. Critics have outrageously called No Labels a Trump super PAC. Now, full stop again. I know these people. I've been in various conference calls with people who are excited about No Labels, but are hearing from the media on this, and they're saying, we're going to elect Donald Trump. This is just going to make it easier for Trump to win. Now, I've got, two explanations or two reasons as to why this is a crazy thought. Number one, the people in No Labels, they do not like Donald Trump. They are very much worried about Donald Trump. They did not like what happened on January 6th. I've moved a little bit more in their direction. I think a lot of those people got sucked into something and don't deserve to be in jail at all. There were a few rabble-rousers, but for the most part, those people should have been given a slap on the wrist. Don't do this again. They should have never been held in jail without due process. And so some of that is outrageous. But the bottom line is, I don't think you disrupt a constitutional event, which was the certification of the election. All right. You may not like the results. Maybe the results were questionable, but you had a number of weeks and months to try to deal with that. And then again, he's the guy who passed the bill to allow the CARES Act and or signed it or whatever. So I'm talking about Trump, by the way. And so, again, the fact that they're calling No Labels a Trump super PAC, these people do not like Donald Trump. That's the bottom line. These people are very similar to Never Trumpers. They may not be as Never Trump as the actual Never Trumpers, but they're definitely not doing this to get Donald Trump elected. She says here, it's a lie intended to shut down conversation around its efforts to give voice to the majority of Americans who definitely want something different than what is being offered by the right and the left. Now, there are critics out there that'll say, Dave, centrism? Ew, centrist? I mean, what do they believe in? They believe in getting things done. They believe that there are difficult issues, and at times compromise is something that we have to do to get a little bit of what we want. Now, I would recommend ordering the Common Sense Handbook, not the Thomas Paine book, although that's a great book too, but Common Sense by No Labels. 30 principles that are easy to articulate. And there are a couple that I might have just some difficulties with. Abortion is never going to be like cut the baby in half, literally. That's a difficult thing for certain people, and it is for me. But if you want fewer abortions, right, in the process of doing real education and helping women in difficult situations, it can be done. Bill Clinton said safe, legal, and rare. All right. So that shows you that he knew how to triangulate or compromise or whatever the term is. He was able to do it on that issue, and thus hence sort of diffuse a lot of the real nasty rhetoric. Now it's either up until the moment of birth, or you're not going to allow, on the other end, you won't allow women to go buy certain kinds of pills at the drugstore. You know what I mean? We're in extreme la-la land, and we're never going to persuade people to our side if we're screaming and yelling about it. Donate to a pro-life ministry if you're pro-life. That's what I do. And that makes me happy to do it, because those people are on the ground providing support for women in addition to, doing ultrasounds and telling them, what's happening, which I think is the best way to prevent an abortion is education. So in any event, you're never going to get 100% on that issue, just never. And this is why you've got to be a pragmatist, because your screaming and yelling isn't going to help. Your extremism on either end of the spectrum, it's making it so people don't want to be involved in politics at all. These are false choices. They're scare tactics. It's bullying, only reinforcing what the majority of people want in this country. The extremes have zero tolerance for anyone who doesn't exactly think the way they do. Only 100% adherence to orthodoxy. I've learned this in recent years. Instead of using persuasion to achieve consensus, this is somebody who is a good writer here. This is Holly Page. They take to social media to scare and fundraise. There it is. Grifting, whether it's, AOC, sorry, OAC, I was going to say, OAC, we'll just keep going with it. No, AOC or MTG. It's on either side of the spectrum. It's a fundraising scam. I'm going to impeach Joe Biden. How are you going to impeach Joe Biden? You don't have enough votes. Everybody knows. Never mind just the impeachment part of it, but then you'd have to get a conviction to get him out of there. I mean, it would be embarrassing, right? They did that to Bill Clinton. They impeached him. They sent a message, hey, Bill, whatever's going on under the Resolute desk, knock it off. I mean, this is unbecoming of a president, even though I know JFK did worse, right? So we need to move on. We need you to apologize and try to reconcile. You're supposed to be the leader of the free world, and by default, you're kind of an example to people here in our country, especially younger people who at that time said that a certain kind of behavior was no longer categorized as that behavior because Bill Clinton did it, So, yeah, I don't think Bill Clinton deserves a pass, but the economy was in pretty good shape. The irony, she says, is that the nation was founded by people who didn't agree on anything except the principle of liberty. Groupthink is the most un-American concept of all. Amen. I've been a part in one way or another of working to give voice to the political center my entire professional career. I am dismayed that an ideology with a track record like ours and the support of a majority of voters is not better represented in modern politics. I, for one, accept this for what it means. In the spirit of my new Democratic forefathers, it's time to try a different approach. I say to my longstanding friends and colleagues in the Democratic Party, the vast majority of voters are clear in their message to us all. Listen to them. I'm not suggesting you must support no labels, but aggressively working to deny choices to the American people is a losing proposition. She says she learned that from Bill Galston, telling voters what they don't want, telling voters that they don't want what they want is a losing proposition. In other words, you don't want that. Let me tell you what you really want. This is definitely something that's happening in politics, both on the left and on the right, especially on the left. The left, they tell their people, you know what you guys want? You guys want electric cars. Even though the technology isn't there and we're buying all of our stuff from China to make them. This goes back to Ross Perot, how certain countries were eventually going to own most of us, and that's what's happening. You know, Trump tapped into that a little bit, but what we do need is we need cooperation from both the left and the right, Democrats and Republicans. And guess what? There are people that are center left and center right who aren't insane, who could work together and just steamroll the extremes. They could, but they need to know that there's a group out here that has their back. And this is what No Labels is about. She goes on to say, challenging the failed status quo to bring hope and opportunity to the American people when they need it most is messy and painful, but necessary for progress and liberty. She says she learned that from Bill Clinton, of all people. To take this position and do so publicly comes with tremendous loss for me personally. Now, this is true. Everybody who has stepped into this, who was in something else, is taking a beating. People who left Donald Trump to go support Ron DeSantis took a huge beating financially, and then they get trolled constantly. They're told, that Ron DeSantis is a loser. He wears boots, and it's like, what? And this is the kind of stuff that people are tired of. In 2016, it was either Hillary or Trump, and Hillary was very establishment, and she wasn't enthusiastic. She didn't campaign, and thus Trump wins. That's what happened. Trump ran a better campaign than Hillary. But now we're running off of the politics of revenge, and we'll say anything and we'll destroy anyone. We'll go completely scorched earth. And the people are like, hey, I kind of like Ron DeSantis. He's a family man. He's got 3 little kids. What are you doing? That really woke me up. When I saw that, I'm like, no, I don't want to be a part of that anymore. I'm done. I have 3 kids. Actually, I have 4 children. Sorry. I forget about my oldest child, right? But I just can't understand why people do this. Like, why would you just destroy a family, even if they were not with you politically, but they're with you politically? In fact, more so than with Trump, right? More so than Donald Trump, but yet you're going to destroy them. And so that was a wake-up call. I didn't want to be involved in that anymore. And yeah, sometimes the DeSantis people are harsh on people like Nikki Haley and Donald Trump, and maybe they deserve it, maybe they don't deserve it. But the point is, we need solutions. We need to go above the fray. She says, I truly believe that the future of our republic depends on our ability to overcome the politics of performance and polarization. Boom again. I mean, this is a super smart lady. This is a great nation and it deserves better. I am called to do my part. There you go. She is called to do her part. She needs to overcome, and we need to overcome the politics of performance and polarization. And that's what this is. Performative politics. Let me get out there. I'm Matt Gaetz. I'm going to say something really controversial. And we're going to get rid of the Speaker of the House. And we're going to flounder around for a couple of weeks. Then we're going to put someone in there who's actually really similar to the guy that you got rid of. I don't get it. And they're touting it as a win when it wasn't. It was just needless disruption. Look, the government shutdown threat really bothers me on two levels. Number one, just keep the government open. All right, keep it open, because I want normal American people to benefit if there's money that they're ruthlessly and recklessly going to spend. I'd rather see Americans get that money. Number two, the other side of this is it's always used to destroy the other side that says, hey, we need to rein in spending. What needs to happen is prior to and above all of the reckless spending, people need to get together and say, you know what? We've got to balance this budget. We've got to come through with a spending bill that takes care of the entire year, so we're not doing CRs every 2 weeks. Because I think there's another one coming up before the end of the year. I mean, they pass a bill to keep things open, and it's a temporary fix. Meanwhile, $32 trillion later. And by the way, No Labels is all over this. No Labels believes that we have to do something about the debt. And we did it in the 1990s, right? We had peace and prosperity. And she's making that point that the cooperation, the centrist ideas, which right now, honest to goodness, when you read through the 30 proposals, the 30 really good ideas that No Labels has, it's fairly conservative. And I know that might sound... to these hardcore conservatives, they want to blow everything up. And no, you blow everything up and it's just destroyed. You don't have anything to go in its place. Matt Gaetz found that out when he got rid of Kevin McCarthy. What was the punchline there, Matt? The punchline was that he did it. Oh, I did it. Look what I did. I got this guy ousted. And so now we'll put in another guy who's pretty much the same, which is true. Then everybody will say how that was a victory. What you need is cooperation. What you need is, number one, and this will appeal to Donald Trump fans, is you need to take care of Americans first, right? We do have geopolitical things going on in the world, and I think we know who our allies are, and we know who is allied against us. And I think we need to understand that the world is a dangerous place in some regards. I don't want to spend the farm on endless wars. I have been on here, sounding that alarm for a very long time. But it appears that the wars have kind of started on their own. The United States didn't start the war in Ukraine. The United States did not start the war between Israel and Hamas. Okay, so yeah, every time something happens, how much are we going to be involved and who's going to pay for it? And is it in our national security interests, in our economic interests to be on one side or another? That, I think, is, again, something that politicians should be working together on. And the loud extremes, again, on both sides of this issue are at times frightening. And I think it spooked me after the Hamas-Israel thing. That really spooked me, and I became a different person politically at that point. I changed overnight. I'm just going to be honest. I was not the same person. And I'm still hearing the crazy rhetoric, and I don't understand it, especially with history as a backdrop. I do not understand what's happening there. But anyway, I didn't want to keep going and have a tangent that went so far that it's not what this is about. This is about Holly Page who is, again, if you want to know more about Holly Page, she's a co-founder of No Labels, was the executive vice president of the DLC, and was a strategic advisor to an organization called Third Way. By the way, anytime something goes through Congress and something is avoided, like a shutdown, or funding is needed for a certain project that needs to get done, which I think most Americans are for, they're not against. It's typically the No Labels people that make that happen. The Problem Solvers Caucus, as it's called. And these are people on the center right and center left who work together on the big ticket items. I've been saying that for as long as I've had this channel. Big ticket items. Let's solve those things, and then we can argue, debate, fight, and do all the stuff we normally do on all of the rest of this stuff. But when it comes to infrastructure, keeping the store open, making sure people are fed and clothed and housed. I'm not advocating for socialism, because we need the money to pay for that stuff, which means we need a robust economy that grows at more than just 2%, right? We had that during the 80s and 90s. We had that type of growth. After 2003, gee, what happened in 2003? Anyway, after 2003, economic growth went down the tubes. So growth can certainly solve a lot of our problems. Energy, which again, No Labels has an all of the above approach to energy, which again is very conservative, right? And I agree with that. It's common sense. So these aren't crazy people. These are people that want peace and prosperity, and they understand the world is a dangerous place. And that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching. I know I'm a bit scatterbrained on this, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree and not watch this channel, because I've decided not to do grifting for Donald Trump, and not do grifting for libertarians, and not do grifting for any group that's kind of up and coming and flashy and interesting. It's not me anymore. I have children. I care about them. I care about their future. We have to solve these problems. We can't just be fighting back and forth, doing the grift, and not actually figuring out what the problem is. We keep these problems going in many cases so people can fundraise off of them, and it just never ends. So this video is ending, though, and thanks for watching. Please support the channel. There'll be a link in the description on how you can support this channel financially, although I doubt people are going to do that at this stage. If you just watch the video, I think that's a huge achievement right now. And I'll see you soon, though.